What's up, peoples? And my name is Christian, your host, and welcome back to the program. In this first video that I'm going to be publishing, I'm going to be talking about reaching the youth as well as reaching other people as it pertains to the Messiah. Unfortunately, in recent years, this topic has been accompanied with a lot of compromise when it comes to understanding how to keep people in the church as well as, for lack of a better term, keep them coming when it comes to the youth as well. So what am I going to do? Well, first I want to give my 2 cents on the current state of the church as it pertains to this topic. Number 2, I want to share some of my own personal experiences from either outreach functions or my own personal experiences when it comes to youth ministry, as well as number 3, and this is probably the most important one, suggest some possible solutions if there is a need for any, as well as coming from a biblical standpoint, because that's the most important thing, not to necessarily rant about what's wrong with the world. Well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we probably need to talk. Now, we've all heard it, ladies and gentlemen, that in recent years, there have been a lot of teens as well as adults leaving the churches in droves. And we've seen it all over the news. We've seen it all over the interwebs. And there have been tons of statistics done by Barna Group and many other companies like them. And the problem is many people aren't understanding the real cause and they're looking more at the symptoms. And for the ones that stay, what are most believers doing in order to keep not only the teens inside of the church, but to bring more in? Unfortunately, when this topic is discussed, there is an element of compromise that has been brought into the church in order to keep the people satisfied. Now, if you're watching this, I'm sure that the title caught your eye, Stop Reaching the Youth. And that seems a bit, countercultural. And you might be misunderstanding what I'm trying to say. What I'm saying is, in terms of reaching the youth, we need to stop necessarily reaching them and start teaching them. When people start talking about reaching the youth, it's more of the 40, 45-year-old people start trying to dress like they're 17 in order to preach the gospel in a new and cool way. And we don't need that. We need to be led. So the point that I really want to drive home when making that statement is that Christians are producing more fake Christians by using these methods. And most importantly, not only are they misrepresenting the church, they're misrepresenting God in the process, which is the most dangerous thing you can do if you're a believer. Now, the first thing I would like to discuss is Christians being relevant to the culture, because being relevant to the culture is what God has called us to do, right? Unfortunately, no, He hasn't called us to do that. There's a plethora of scriptures that are in the Bible, and I haven't even listed them all, but here are a few. We have Leviticus 11:45, 20 verse 26, 19 verse 2, as well as Deuteronomy 7 verse 26, all of which talk about being set apart and being holy, being set apart and being holy. Nothing in those scriptures suggests that we are to look like the Canaanites next door, if you will. So why are we implementing these tactics? To be honest, I don't really know. Now, I guess I could say I know because I've tried those tactics myself. But I think the thing that I really want to say is when you live according to the Father's word and when you try to do things the way He wants you to do them to your friends in the world or anybody else, you will look weird. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, the Bible literally uses the words aliens in the Bible multiple times. So I'm pretty sure that means you're going to look, weird. Anyways, and then we have another issue, which is people trying to be salt and light. And the problem with that is also scripture that's being misunderstood, which means that in order to be salt and light, or let's say light, for instance, you must dim yourself to be like the light, or to be like the darkness around you in order to fit in, which by definition disqualifies you from being a light in the first place. And then sometimes, which is also unfortunate, which I have done many times, is that we want to justify our sometimes ridiculous and maybe unbiblical actions by misunderstanding Paul's verse being all things to all people. And that's not necessarily what that's talking about. And maybe I'll explain that in a later video. But for now, I guess I would like you guys to understand, or maybe have a thought planted, that being all things to all people does not mean going to go hang out at some dirty spot just for the sake of reaching a soul, because in that process, you're not doing it at all. You're just basically throwing mud on the name of Christ because you want to look cool. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's the truth. And I'm only saying that because I know that from experience. And not that there's anything wrong with these topics, but I've noticed that a lot of these teen ministries are talking more about how does Jesus help you deal with peer pressure, or, you know, is your girlfriend or boyfriend right for you? And I have certain opinions on that one. We're not going to get in that one today. But I believe that there's nothing wrong with discussing those topics, but when you are using those topics in place of discussing real biblical things where you're supposed to be living by them instead of worrying about the symptoms of a problem, I think we have bigger issues on our hands than teens dealing with depression. Maybe it's possibly the entertainment that we take in, or maybe it's the type of people that we surround ourselves with that might be the problem, and not necessarily taking a drug so you feel better, if that makes sense. And as we all know, that teens have been getting this reputation for, now it's the time for you to be disrespectful to your parents and rebellious and a bunch of other things. And what I want to communicate to you today is that we don't have to conform to that norm anymore. We never had to. It's just that society has put this stereotype on us that we have to do those things. And later we go on to find the definition of sin, because unfortunately, if you ask most people what sin is, it's usually, oh, it's something bad. But what is the scriptural definition for sin? Scriptural definition for sin is 1 John 3:4, that sin is the transgression of the law. So what would that mean? That means any instructions that God has given in the Bible, anything contrary to that, is by definition sin. So in this context, it would be sin for you to use profanity about your parents, for instance, or to talk or slander your parents in different group settings. And that was considered a penalty punishable by death in Israel. Am I saying that we need to go out and start grabbing teenagers and stoning them in the street? Absolutely not. There's a whole bunch of other things that would have to happen in order for that to even get to that point. What I am trying to convey is that that behavior has become such a norm that we don't realize the danger that the church is in, let alone the world, but the church is in for allowing that kind of behavior and saying that in a way it's okay without verbally saying it, but through our actions we have communicated that it is. All right, so what do we do now? So I've been sitting up here complaining about all the things that I think are wrong with youth groups and stuff. So what do we do now? We need a solution. Well, the solution is, it's been around for hundreds, thousands of years actually. Proverbs 22 verse 6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. The thing is, the word of God is true no matter what. So whether or not you are teaching a child to behave a certain way, or you're verbally telling them, we learn by watching. So if we learn that being a drug addict or a drunkard is okay, we are probably going to do it. If we see that loving Christ with all of our hearts is the best thing to do, we're probably going to do it, whether or not you teach us verbally to do those things, if that makes sense. Because you reap what you sow. And that's always been true, whether it's good or evil. And I think I want to leave on a good note. So the reason I did this video was not to beat a dead horse. A lot of people, there are a million youth groups exposed videos on YouTube, or a bunch of other things on YouTube. And I'm not trying to beat a dead horse right now or say that going out and having fun or going to the movies is wrong. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. What I want to convey is to adults as well as teens, we're paying attention and we notice the problem as well. There are many adults out there that are doing videos, doing articles and things like that. But what I want to do is, A, for those of you that are in the position that I am and feel the same way I do, you're not alone. And B, for the adults that feel like the kids don't get it, we do get it. Now, we may not verbally communicate it that way, but we do. And we're trying to, in a sense, follow what you're trying to teach us. I also want to say for the adults is that in order to reach us, in order for us to learn, you do not have to dumb down the Bible in order for us to learn and grow. Now, granted, there are some difficult things in the scriptures. Read the book of Isaiah, for instance. I don't think I got to the first chapter for that one. Anyways, by all means, just continue to fight with your relationship with the Lord if you have one. For those of you that don't, I urge you to find out what it is this whole Bible thing is about and why these weirdos are choosing to follow this God that has these harsh rules or whatever. I urge you to go and check it out. I urge you to do your own research and, for lack of a better term, prove me a liar. Well, that's it for today, folks. I hope that this video was inspiring, that it was encouraging, and I pray that you are excited for the next few videos to come. I pray that you're excited to do your own research, and pray that you feel a bunch of other uplifting cliches. And until the next video, peace.